Welcome to the explanation of Catan rules. So as you can see, there's the board. It's got a bunch of components we're going to talk about here, but I'm just going to start with the different land on the board. So these red ones here are brick, and they're referenced over here with the brick. And then we have wood over here, and those match with the wood over there. Over here we have grain, which is yellow. It matches over there with the yellow card there. We have stone, which matches with the stone over there. Most people call it stone or ore or whatever like that. Over here we have sheep. Sheep match up with those sheep over there. And then the other square that we have in regular Catan is the gold. And the gold is one of anything when you collect it, but we'll be explaining about that later. Also, you'll notice that there's two swamps on this board. Those are only used in the rivers expansion because there's a river there. And so they're basically the same as a desert, which is where the robber lives. It doesn't do anything, it doesn't produce anything, it's basically no good. So over here we have our various wheat and brick. Now you'll notice that the board is specifically set up like this for this demo to explain the different components. So wheat and brick are on their own. And the first row here is resources. So of the resources we also have sheep, wood, and stone. And then you'll notice the second row, there's three of them here. These are commodities, whereas these are resources. So if the card says commodity, then it means these. If it says resources, it means this. There are some cards that will talk about resources and commodities count, but that all depends on what expansion it came from. So we'll explain that as we go, if we can remember the various cards. So the ore and the coin match up. You'll notice that they've got the same background. The wood and the paper, the sheep and the cloth or wool all match up, whereas these two don't. These cards here are the Defender of Catan cards. If you fight the Barbarians and win, which we'll show you later how to do that, then you get this card and you get a victory point, and we'll explain how to get that later. The three cards in the back there, the green, blue, and yellow, are what are called progress cards. And those are picked up based on the dice roll, and that'll get explained when we get to your turn and how you do your turn. This here is the Harbor Master. The Harbor Master is obtained by having 3 harbor points. So each settlement is worth 1 harbor point that is on a port or a harbor, and each city is worth 2. So the player with the most harbor points, minimum of 3, holds the Harbor Master card. And the Harbor Master card is worth 2 extra victory points. Now we'll explain victory points later, but it's just good to know that that exists. Other than that, we have a few other tokens here on the board. These guys here, we call them brigands because they attack the roads, and those will get explained a little bit later in the game. We also have the robber. He attacks the land. We'll explain him a little bit later in the game. We have the merchant. And the merchant, I'm just going to read what he does here. He's found in the yellow cards over there. Where's merchant? Merchant. The merchant's worth 1 victory point while he's on your hex. So you place him down. So I'll just put a settlement there. If I put the merchant there, then he lets me have a port for this resource, 2 to 1. So that'll make more sense when you have when I've explained the ports. But he makes a 2 to 1 on whatever resource he's on. If he's on the gold, it's a 3 to 1 because gold is anything, and the anything port is 3 to 1. So we always play with that. Yeah, that's what he does. These are Metropolis. They'll be explained in a bit. And this is the pirate. He's basically the robber of the sea. We also have 3 other special squares. We have here, this is the glassworks. It produces glass and tools, and it needs sand to go in. That'll make more sense later, but it's just good to know what that looks like. Over here we have a quarry. which produces tools, and it needs stone and sand to make it work. Once again, explain later. And here we have the castle. There's a couple different tiles that are each, but they're in the box right now. But just remember the castle and the glass and the stone goes in, and it produces tools and sand. So we'll explain that when we get to it. But for now, it's just good to know what it is. And these are the ports. So that's a 2-to-1 on wood. We'll explain more about the ports later. Alright, so in front of you, you have your gold, which I'll explain later. You have your building card, you have your fish card, and you also have your baggage wagon. So the build card is this guy here. So to make a road, you need a brick and a wood, and we'll explain later. So this is the build card. It has various purchases on it, and when you turn in a commodity, you'll notice the 3 commodities are showing here. Then you flip this over. So if you turned in a paper, then you would flip that over, and you would gain the benefits of it being flipped over. You'll notice that every time you flip one over, you need to add an additional one to it to flip it again. So this time you would need 2 papers in order to flip it. When you reach the 3rd level of each, there's an ability. So here on the paper, it is if you receive no production on a turn and the roll is not a 7, you may take 1 resource of your choice. Now this says resource, it means resource because this expansion has the commodities in it. So this is resource, definitely. The 3rd level ability here is that you may promote strong knights to mighty knights. So you can't reach a level 3 knight, which I'll show you later, until you have this up. And this here, it says you may trade any commodity at 2-to-1 rate. So you can trade 2 cloth for a paper, or 2 cloth for a sheep, or anything with 2 cloth, or 2 paper, or 2 coin. So the other important thing to note here is along these lines here. So what happens when the dice rolls, there's a 3rd dice, and it's got a yellow castle, a green castle, a blue castle, and a barbarian ship on it. And so if the dice roll is a yellow castle and the red dice is a low number like 1 or whatever you've got listed here, if this combination comes up and then this is, I don't know, that, whatever, then you'd be able to pick up a yellow card into your hand. But if these were reversed like that, based on this situation here where you've only got the 1 to 4, then you would not get a yellow card. Okay? So that's explained. Alright, so now the fish card. So here's the fish card. You can purchase these with this number of fish. I'm not going to go through all of them. These ones here, it says resource, but technically that commodities don't exist in that expansion, and so we do modify that so that it's resource or commodity. And same with this one, you may draw 1 resource or commodity card from another player out of their hand randomly. And when it says road, that can be a road, a boat, or a bridge. That's no problem there. And this we really just wipe out because development cards stop existing. So that one doesn't exist. So that's what you can do with fish. That'll make more sense once you've seen the explanation on everything else. And so now the baggage train. So what happens with the baggage train, you know what, I'm going to explain that later. All I'm going to talk about with the baggage train now is just remember that on the 5th level of the baggage train, you have a victory point. So make sure you're counting that when you're counting your win. And we'll go over the baggage train later. Okay, so a road. So we'll start with a settlement. There's my settlement. So there's a settlement. It's a little house-shaped thing. It's built using 1 brick, 1 wood, 1 grain, and 1 sheep. Right there on the build card. It's worth 1 victory point, and you have to build them on the corners, kind of like that. And then you have to build 2 roads away. So if white had one here, okay, I don't know why, they just do, then you would not be able to build another settlement here or here because it's only one road away here and it's only one road away there, so you can't build on either of those two spots or either of these two spots for that matter. A road, which is right here, is built using a brick and a wood, and it's used to connect locations for building settlements. So we'll put that guy down there. They go on the edges just like that. And we could build another road here, but unfortunately we would not be able to build here. So in order for us to build, we would have to build another road here and then put a settlement down here. We would have to pay for all of this, but, you know, looking at it. Okay. Cities. Cities are worth 2 points, 2 victory points. Basically the victory points, you go to a number, you say the winner has to get 15 victory points. So this would be worth 2. Settlements are worth 1. Harbor Master's worth 2. Having the baggage train at 5 is worth 1. There's other ways to get victory points that we'll explain as we go. But the city is worth 2 points. It's built using 2 grain and 3 ore, and it replaces a settlement. So in order for you to put it, you would just move that guy and put that guy down. And then now that spot would be a city. Cities get double the production, so if you produce brick, then the city, you would get 2 brick. Now what happens on the ore, on the 3 here that have their corresponding commodity, you get 1 of each. So if a 2 rolled, you would get an ore and a coin. If a 4 rolled over here, instead of the 2, you would get 2 brick, because brick does not have a matching commodity. Okay, so grain and brick, you would get 2 of those instead of 1 of each. Alright, a boat. We have boats here. They just look like little ships. They're built using 1 wood and 1 sheep. It's right here on the build card. It's used to connect settlements or cities over water, and connecting 2 settlements is called a trade route. So what you do is you build them on the corners just like roads, except they have to be on water or edging on water. And you still need to be 2 away. So we'll just move these over here so that you can see. And then we could build a settlement here, but maybe we want to go over here. So then we would build another one here. And then what would happen is we would have to continue building a boat, okay? And then build the settlement here. You cannot switch to roads from boats. You have to stop at a settlement and then continue with roads. So say you wanted to build up here at this castle, you would have to do like that in order to build on this corner. But other than that, so if your opponent beats you to your spot, so let's just say that white here, white's such an evil player, they decide they're going to build, where's the settlements? They're there. They built a settlement there. They have roads. They started off over here somewhere. Okay, so we'll take that and put it there. They started off over there and they built a settlement. So then they made it here and they beat you there. So your boat's now useless. You can't build on top of them. What you can do with boats is, because you have not established a trade route to one of your own settlements, you can redirect your lead boat and you can go around this way. You cannot leave your boat here and then build another boat here. It has to be one direct path. So you'd have to redirect this guy and then you could build a settlement over here somewhere. Okay, so now we're on to the knights. The knights are a little bit more complicated. So right here I have 3 knights in front of me. The first level knight, he's got 1 ring. Second level knight has 2 rings, and third level knight has 3 rings. Now, if you remember, we talked about these knights on the 3rd level of the building cards. You may promote strong knights, which are level 2, to mighty knights, which are level 3. You can only do that if you have this here. So for most of the game, that's your knight options. You don't have the 3rd one. And then once you reach this level, the 3rd one becomes available. So what... oh, I just lost my page here. Each ring equals 1 strength. So this guy is strength of 1, this guy's strength of 2, and this guy's strength of 3. A knight is built using a sheep and an oar, just like on your building card here. And you upgrade a knight, or promote it, using the same thing. So in order for you to get a level 2 knight, you'd have to pay 2 sheep, 2 stone. Don't have to be at the same time, but you have to pay each of them to upgrade it. Not only can the knight provide strength towards the barbarian attack, which will be explained later, but he can also perform actions which are listed below, which we're going to go through. So when you place a knight, you can place him on there, or you can place him along your boat route, or you can place him pretty much anywhere. But you can't build a settlement while he's there. You'd have to move him, which is part of the action, so we'll go over that later. The only other thing to note about the knights is that the knight activation is 1 wheat. So, and that allows him to be activated so that he can do actions. And to activate him, you flip him over here. So see he's got white there, and then there he's yellow. That means he's active. So that'll be explained later on what happens when your knight's active. The last piece we have, or sorry, we've got a couple more pieces. A bridge. Bridges are only in the expansion Traders and Barbarians. We've only started using them. They are built using 2 brick and 1 wood. Now, because they're from the Traders and Barbarians, they're not actually listed on the building card, but just think of a road with extra brick because it needs its support pillars and stuff like that. You use it to build bridges over water instead of boats. So say we wanted to go this way, we could build a road there, and then we build a bridge over this river because, you know, a road's not going to do well over a river. And you wouldn't be able to build a boat to go across there because it just would get complicated. Alright, and then you could build a settlement over here just for the heck of it. The last piece we have that you actually own are city walls. They're just a square wood. They're built using 2 bricks, just like on the card here. They add 2 cards to your robber limit. We'll explain your robber limit in a few minutes. And they can only be built on a city, not a settlement. These are city walls. If the city is lost, the city walls are lost, which we'll explain later on how a city is lost. So you just place it underneath like that, and that means city walls. So you'll notice here that there's a bag of fish. You'll see that there's one with 3 fish, there's one with 2 fish, there's one with 1 fish. So when you have a settlement or a city on the fish squares, which the fish squares are this pond here, the 410, or these ones here where you've got a 9, you've got a 6, you've got a 10, there's a 5 up there, and you produce them just like you would resources. And then you can build them using the card we showed you earlier. The boot is also in the fish section. The boot causes a player to need an extra victory point. This can be passed on during the turn of the player who has it. You can give it to any player with more victory points than you. And it makes that person need +1. That person can always pass it off on their turn if somebody else gets higher. Okay, so now we've explained most things here. So on our turn, so your turn starts with resource collection. So you take the 3 dice to my little assistant, she's going to roll for us. Perfect roll. Okay, so let's just set that up and let's just pretend we're there on the build card, just so that we can see the example. So you notice how the green dice came up with a red 2. That means that if you have the first level of this flipped over, it gives you the 1 and the 2 of red, you would get to pick up a green card. So we reach over here and we pick up a green card. You may take 2 ore cards from the bank for each mountain hex which is adjacent to at least one of your cities or settlements. So if we were the red player, we would keep this in our hand, and you would look out and I've got a settlement adjacent to a mountain, which are the ore, and I have a city adjacent to the mountain. So if we were to play this card, it would give us 4 ore into our hand. So we're going to put that back just because this is just an example. And an 8 rolled. So you'd look around the board and you would say, who's on an 8? So there's an 8 over here. So this white player, each of these settlements would produce 1 brick. So the white player would receive 2 bricks from the bank. So we'll just put white over there. And so white would get those, and then he could spend them on his resources, okay? So here's what happens. You resolve the event dice first. That's this guy here. So if it's a castle showing, you match that up with the red dice and your cards and see who actually gets that card. If a barbarian is rolled, then you move the barbarian ship along its path. That's up here. So you move that 1 more square. So if the barbarian ship reaches here, the barbarians attack Catan. And it's everyone's job to protect Catan. So here's how we protect Catan. So if we have, we'll just put that guy out. Activated knights are how you protect. So you add up the strength of all activated knights. So the red player has 1 strength, the white player has 1 strength. So that's 2 strength total. Everyone that counts. Add up the number of cities in play. So currently there's only 1 city, red's city. White doesn't have any cities. If the number of knights minus the number of cities is a positive number, including 0, then the knights win. The player who provides the most strength receives a Defender of Catan card. If tied, no one receives the card. So in this case, we had 1 strength from red, 1 strength from white. We won, but we were tied, so nobody gets Defender of Catan. If this was changed to this, then the red player would receive the Defender of Catan card because he's offering more strength. So if the number of knights minus the number of cities is a negative number, so while we're paused there, I changed these up so that they're unactivated knights. So right now there are 0 strength on the board because we have no knights active. Then the barbarians are victorious. The player who provided the least strength, in this example, both white and red provided nothing, so they both provided the least strength. So 1 of each of their cities would be destroyed. White has no cities in this example, so they wouldn't lose anything. But unfortunately for red, he would lose that city because it's his only one, and he would lose the city walls with it because they can't be on a settlement. If a 7 is rolled, okay, so we're done with that dice. Now we need to deal with these dice on the turn. So if a 7 is rolled, then we activate the robber, the brigands, or the pirates. And anyone who has more than 7 cards, more than the robber limit in their hand, discards half their hand rounded down. The default robber limit is 7. So right now in the example, we have no city walls. It was destroyed. So if anyone had 8 cards, 9 cards, 50 cards, they would discard half their hand, and it's their choice what cards they discard. But if the player had 8 cards and they still had this up, then they would not lose half their hand because 8 cards is less than their robber limit. So we've already shown you all of the 3, the brigand, the robber, and the barbarian. So now the player gets to choose one of those to move. So if white rolled the dice, they would go, okay, so the robber occupies a land hex and prevents anyone from collecting resources that hex produces while the robber is on it. The player who moved the robber can steal a random resource card from one of the players who has a settlement around that hex. So if they placed it here, then they would get to steal from one of these 2, and also one of 4 rolls, no brick would be produced. Okay? So you could do that. Or you could move the brigands, which occupy roads, which are important for getting around, like you can't build a road while there's a brigand there. And also it prevents the caravans from getting around. So you could move this. Now if you moved it to someone's boat or road or bridge, then you'd be able to steal a card from that player, but the brigands do not affect the production. The pirate, we've already seen him. He occupies the sea. So if we put him here, in this middle here, nobody can build a boat around this hex. Also, he can steal a card from anyone on that hex. So you could again steal a card from either white or red. So then if a 7 is not rolled, it's something else like that 8, then you would collect. So after the 7 is taken care of, if there was one, after the event dice is taken care of, you pick up what you need. So in this case, white would get 2 brick into their hand. If you get a gold, then you get 1 of any resource. If you get a gold and it's a city, then you get 1 resource and the matching commodity. So if you want a paper, you have to take a wood and a paper. If you want a sheep, you have to take a sheep and a wool. Okay, so that's phase 1 of your turn. Phase 2 is your building and trading. So you can build any piece that's in the game. You could build a knight, you could build a city, you could build a road, whatever you want as long as you have the cards. You can trade with anyone. Players whose turn it is not cannot trade amongst themselves, but they can trade with the player whose turn it is. Bank trading. So you can trade with the bank. By default, all players can trade resources and commodities at 4 to 1. So 4 sheep gives you a wood. 4 brick gives you a paper. Whatever you want. There's ways to reduce that if you have a harbor. So if we look here, once again at our wood harbor, you can trade 2 wood for 1 of anything. So you could trade 2 wood for a coin, or 2 wood for a brick. There's other ones here that are the same thing, just different resources. Here's the 2 to 1 for wheat, and so on and so forth. You will also notice that there is a 3 to 1. You can trade 3 of any identical card for 1 of any other card. So you could trade 3 grain for a sheep, or 3 brick for a cloth. Anything you want. So we'll put that back up there. You can also trade 2 gold coins. Every player starts with 5. You can trade 2 gold coins with the bank for any resource or commodity you would like. So that could be traded for a brick, and that could be traded for a wood. Unfortunately, you can only do 2 of these trades every turn. So if you have 15 coins, you can still only do 4 coin trade worth of trade. But you can also trade the coins with other players and get resources that way. So you can also do, so during your turn, while you're trading, while you're building, you can also do knight actions. So you once again, you activate a knight by paying a grain. So we're going to activate this knight here. We'll put this guy here just for the example, and we'll put him there just for the example. So, you can activate a knight paying 1 grain to the bank. If the knight is active, you can perform an action to deactivate him, and then you can reactivate him afterwards. If the knight is not active, you may not activate him and perform an action. You have to do action, then activate. I don't know why, it's just the way the rules are. So an already active knight can perform an action and reactivate himself. A non-active knight cannot activate and then perform an action and deactivate. You can move a knight along the same path. Actually, I'm going to start off with another one. The knight can also chase away the robber, the brigand, or the ship. So if he's here and he's active, you deactivate him and you say, I'm going to move that over there because I want that 4 back and I just cannot roll a 7. If he was active, you could also deactivate him to move this guy out of the way. Okay? You can also, if he's active, you can move him along the same continuous road anywhere to any open spot. So you can move him there, and that would deactivate him. You pay another grain, activate him again, and on your next turn, you deactivate him, and you can kick this guy away and send him back over to that square out there. The caravan. So this is kind of the bread and butter of the new expansion, Traders and Barbarians. It really helps you get it moving. Your caravan looks like this. You move the caravan the number of spaces defined on the baggage wagon card. So if you look at the baggage wagon card, this one here, the level 1 is 4, the level 2 is 5, and so on, and the level 5 is 7. So at some point you stop getting movement. So we'll just put it up here just for more examples. So your caravan, when you start the game, you start it with a settlement and a city. Your caravan starts at your city. So we'll put them at the city that exists now. I know we don't look like the beginning of the game, but that's okay. So then you'd be able to move them 7 points. So along a road, a bridge, or a ship is 1 point. Along non-road is 2 points. So what we're going to do, just for this example, we're going to move that up there and remove this, okay? So then you go 1, 2, 3 to the middle of here. You pick up this card, and it tells you where you're going next. So now I need to go up to the castle because it shows the glass going in. Brigands add +2 to your movement. So if this brigand happened to be there, then it would be 3, 4, 5 to get in, but we have 7 movement, so that's good. When you encounter a brigand, you can try and move them. So if you look here at the bottom of your baggage wagon card, it shows a 6, 5, 4, 3 on the 5, and it shows nothing on the 1. So what this means is that you roll the dice, and I got a 6, so I would move the brigand out of the way, and he would not count towards my limit. So it'd be again 1, 2, 3, and I would make it there. So now I have to go to the castle. So when you reach there, I only use 3 movement points. I have 7, but unfortunately, because they have to load the resource into the wagon, you can't continue traveling that turn. You have to wait. So then on your next turn, you would go 1, 2, 3, and then you really want to make it, so you go 4, 5, oh, and then we got another brigand, so let's roll that dice again. 2, I fail, so 5, so it costs 6, 7, 8, 9 to get over him. I don't have 9, so I'm stuck there. My next, and I would also have to pay 2 gold to the white player because I traveled over white's road. So you pay 1 gold per segment of somebody else's road that you travel on. So then on my next turn, I would roll again. There we go. I have a 3, so I'd move the brigand out of the way and continue as normal. 2, 4. When I get there, I flip this over, and it becomes a victory point. So each of these that you have are victory points. Then you go and you pick this up, and now I'm going to the tools, which is over here. So because I can't travel across water, then somebody would have to build over here. Like maybe white's got a city here, and a couple boats, and then a settlement here. Oh, a settlement went flying. And then you would be able to reach that spot. So it continues like that. The caravan is the last thing you can do on your turn. Once you start moving the caravan, your turn is over. You're first reaching a space. You don't have anything to deliver. You're there to pick up because you're coming from your city. And also you can add 1 wheat. You can pay 1 wheat during your caravan movement to give it +2 movement points for the remainder of the turn. You can only do this once. So in that case of the brigand, we might have been able to make it if I had paid a wheat, and then I would have had 9 movement points instead of the 7. And Harbor Master, I've already explained. I've reached the end of my explanation. So, oh, I missed one thing actually. I missed the metropolis. So this here is the metropolis. You get it by reaching the 4th level of each of these. So where you've got the 1 through 5, and you just put it on your city like that, and it's worth 2 extra victory points. Doesn't do anything else. Oh, and that city can't be destroyed by the barbarians. So if this was the case, barbarians reach Catan, nothing would happen if there's no strength. That's it. Enjoy Cataning.